I'm going to string this tennis racket with one piece of string, but I'm not going to use an around the world pattern, and the mains on this particular racket end in the throat. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a one piece 50-50, or what's more commonly known as a 50-50 stringing pattern. This is completely different from a two-piece 50-50 stringing pattern that I use to string Prince EX03 and 03 tennis rackets. What I'm doing right now is I'm just finding the center of my string, and I'm going to put half of the string on the left side, half of the string on the right side. So I've got 20 feet on each side. I'm going to start the mains just like I start any mains. I'll put both strings at the same time. I clamp as far away from the tension head as I can, inside the frame with a fixed clamp and outside with a starting clamp. Then I'm just going to, okay, this is the last main on the left side of my racket. And this is the last main on the right side of my racket. I've got all of my mains strung in now, and this particular racket has 16 mains and 8 crosses. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to arbitrarily decide that the right side of my racket, I'm going to use this tail to string the bottom half. So if there's 18 mains, it'll be the bottom 9 strings. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That'll be this hole right here. So what I'm going to do is run that string across there. Then I want to also go in the 9th hole on this side. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that should put it straight across there. Okay? This side now will be used to string the top half of my racket. So I'm going to go to the string above that and string this string opposite this one. I went under here, so I'll go over on this one. Alright, and this particular pattern now can be used instead of any, what am I trying to say, any ATW pattern. It'll work on any racket whatsoever, but it's not necessarily recommended by the racket manufacturer. And now all I have to do is pick one side that I'm going to tie off. I'm going to pick the bottom side and just go on with the top side. So I'm going to pull tension on this bottom cross, so the cross that's going to be used to string the bottom, and I'm going to put a starting clamp on that string to hold that string. Now I'm going to pull tension on the string that's being used to string the top half of my crosses. This clamp is holding the cross that came from this clamp, so I can take this clamp off. Actually, whoops, wrong string. I'm going to put it on the one I just strung. Now I can also move this clamp, because this clamp is holding the string that I used to go up and do this cross with. But I'm just going to leave it on there for the time being. This has to go over. So I'm going to go over these strings right here. Now if you wanted to walk your strings up so that you were equalizing the tension on the crosses just like you do on the mains, I guess you could do that, but I've never really done it that way. When I do and I haven't done this pattern since, gosh, I don't know how long. It's been an awful long time. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull tension on this cross. I can move this clamp up to here and string the remainder of the top half of the crosses. I can go all the way up to the top, and when I get done stringing the top half of the crosses, I can come back over here and string the bottom half of the crosses. Okay, I'm up to the top cross on my tennis racket, and I'm going to hold that top cross with a starting clamp right here, because I like to tie off my top cross last. If I've only got one starting clamp to do, and you pretty much got to have a starting clamp to do this if you got fixed clamps, I could take this clamp right here, clamp off this string and tie it off right now, but I'm not going to do that. Now I'm going to pull tension on this bottom half of the crosses, move my fixed clamp down, and take off my starting clamp. Now I can weave the racket from the bottom half on down. Let me show you one thing that I've done now on this side of the racket. Okay, I've got the string that I used to run the last main with came out of the frame, and I brought it all the way up to the racket to right here, and I used it to string the top half of the crosses. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a little point on my string, so that all of my strings go in the bottom half of the grommets here. It's really fairly easy to get that string into that hole. It's not very difficult at all. And I'll have the same problem when I go to the other side of my tennis racket. Okay, if I look at this side of the racket now, this string right here was used to run the bottom strings of my racket, so when I put the string in there, it usually goes through there pretty easy, and right now it came in on the bottom side. It doesn't make any difference whether you go to the top side or the bottom side, but I want to keep all of the strings below that. So I've got my little point cut on my string right here, and I want to make sure that I set my point up so that I can get it in the racket there, so that I don't cross this string over and overlap the string. Okay, I'm almost done with the bottom half of my racket now. All I need to do is weave this last bottom cross through here, pull tension, tie off my top and bottom cross, and I'll be done. Okay, the main, I guess, benefit of stringing your tennis racket this way is it'll work on any tennis racket with the exception of a Prince 03 or an EX03 tennis racket. If you got O ports on the side, this method will not work, I promise you, whether you think it will or not. Let me show you how these strings lay now on the sides of my racket. Alright, as you can see, this long string is the string that I used to go from the last main over here all the way up to the 9th cross from the top. And all of these little loops that you see in here, starting about right here and going down, are the strings that go from one cross to the other. And I try to keep them all on the bottom of the string, the main string that's going from that outside main up to the center of the racket. If I look at the other side of the racket, I'll have the same thing. All of the little loops are on the bottom.